Hey everybody, it's me, Akeem, and I just want to talk a little bit about cars and fascism, which is like a really maybe seem like left field, like whoa, how are those two things related? Very much so they are. Let's go back to World War II. Let's go back to Henry Ford. Henry Ford was a Nazi. Henry Ford helped fund the Nazi power, and he helped Hitler rise to the position of power that he got to. This is an unequivocal fact. He was, he had ties to Nazi Germany as far back as the 1920s. There's a paper trail, a financial paper trail that proves that Ford subsidized the rise of power of Adolf Hitler, who he described as my inspiration, end quote, like literally. So, um, he was very much so a literal Nazi. And then, of course, there's also Volkswagen, the VW, which automobile manufacturing in Germany was strongly influenced by the Nazi regime, and they basically were able to switch out these Volkswagen factories in order to create tanks, to create military stuff. And so again, there's this connection between this and fascism. And what do we live under? We live under this capitalist hegemony that tells us that it's every man for himself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you gotta work on your own, you gotta create your own life. Socialism is the enemy and communism is the devil, right? That's what we live under. And what is a perfect symbolism of that self-efficiency and that isolation? Well, of course, the motor vehicle. If you go down a highway at any given time during the day here in Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, you'll notice that it takes quite a while to get anywhere because all of the transit is clogged up by cars, most of them being occupied by one human being. And this city is known for being one of the most bicycle friendly cities in the United States, has absolutely atrocious bicycle infrastructure, and it's also known for having great public transportation. Portland has shit public transportation compared to what I have seen in the past of Earth and also in other realities and on other planets. Our transportation is literally designed to impose its will upon you. We have created a society that is so vehicle centric that you need a vehicle in order to reach a certain class in our society. There is quite literally two different classes in the society that it's not really talked about, but it's people who can drive and people who can't. If you can't drive, you're handicapped by that, unless you live in a city. Yes, you can get around in Portland with the public transportation, but it takes you a lot longer, and a lot of people just opt out to getting a car because it's more convenient. And not only that, when COVID happened, many of the people who are riding a bicycle or taking public transportation and all these other things, they bought cars, and it still hasn't switched back. We were trending on the decline. Less people with cars in Portland, more car infrastructure, or more bicycle and walking pedestrian oriented uh, infrastructure and less car oriented infrastructure. And look, this creates more foot traffic. It's better for businesses. The cities are less noisy because of it. Everybody talks about how noisy cities are. You want to know what 90% of that noise is? Cars. So it's really a misnomer. It's cars making the cities noisy. Cities don't have to be completely designed around cars and be noisy. That's a trick we tell ourselves. So anyway, let's go back to this. What we're talking about here, where cars are linked to fascism and creating fascist dictatorships and war. Well, look at Elon Musk. He's a huge war contractor. Okay, he's a war contractor. He has contracts with the military. He works with NASA. This guy has been subsidized millions upon millions of your tax money has went towards this guy. Um, which isn't technically even true because all of our tax money goes towards debt, but you get the picture. Um, and this guy, he's propping up these companies, which I've talked about before, and I'll talk about it again. Neuralink and Neuralink, um, Netrodyne, and what's the other one? Palantir. Uh, Let me look it up, make sure I'm saying it right. Palantir, Palantir, Palantir. Sorry about that. These are technologies that are being developed by all these tech bros who are super into all this fascist BS. They claim they're libertarians, but that's arguable. Uh, and even then, there's, enough similarities there where I'm concerned. Um, because the idea of the libertarian is that my personal freedom can and should be allowed to impede on the personal freedom of all the people around me. That's the point where we've gotten. And oh, I don't want the government to rule over me, but if corporations lord over me with their power, that's totally okay. That's what libertarians are. We can argue about that all day if you want. I don't really care. I'm speaking the facts. If you don't like it, if you disagree with me, you don't have to watch this video. You don't have to subscribe to my channel. I'm just telling you the truth. Um, and yeah, this is basically, like I said, these cars. It's really ironic because it's all like liberals that bought these cars, because it's people who wanted to be environmentally friendly and eco-conscious and all this stuff. And now his company's tanking because I don't know if it's going to completely tank, but it's facing a lot of backlash and getting some damage to it because you can't own the libs when the libs own you. Like, those are all the people that are into Tesla cars. And what I'm getting at here is I see all these people. Look, I still pay a little bit of attention to what all the truther community is saying, and they're basically like giving off this whole vibe that we're all going around, that like all the people who aren't supporting Trump and who are speaking out against Tesla and all the BS that he's doing, that we're going out and we're smashing windows and keying cars and this and that. And I'm not saying that to an extent there aren't these things happening. I mean, there's a guy that lives down the street from me who got a swastika painted on his Tesla, which wasn't even a Cybertruck. I mean, like, a lot of these people, like, they didn't know that about Elon's politics. Was way before that. They just wanted to, like I said, be eco-conscious. So there are exceptions though, but I'll say that there's more Teslas in this city I've seen like anywhere, and most of them are fine, and the people are being left alone. Uh, you know, I would say that if you're driving a Cybertruck, you might be get treated a little bit differently, but it's like this insane fervent delusion that like people, the very people that bought these cars to begin with, are crazed lunatics that are like bombing these cars. That is the ultra far left people that are like anarchists and stuff, not your run of the mill liberal who voted for Joe Biden. You people are so fucking out of touch. It's ridiculous. Anybody who's saying this stuff. But I just want to say that there is a connection between car companies and the rise to fascism. We've seen it before in World War II, and we're seeing it again now. And how much do you want to bet that these factories, he's getting ready to make robots, he's getting ready to make, he's got the capability to make vehicles, so all this stuff can be swapped out to make cyborgs. This I'm saying could be, it does happen in certain timelines, but we can prevent it. So I'm not, that's why I'm not stating it as unequivocal fact, because it doesn't have to happen. We can prevent this. But basically this is all being designed so they can swap it all out. Okay, we're building robots, well, that's easy enough to turn into world. We're making humans that have cyborg components, and they're cyborgs. You can swap out all these things. The cars, you start building tanks. They're ready. They're getting ready for World War III. They're getting ready for taking over. They're getting ready for shit to hit the fan, and they're stoking it. They're stoking the fire, and they're trying to make it happen. I don't know about the slow burn that we went in. We're down before, where the global structure was just kind of, the status quo was just kind of not going towards too great of a place either. But I think we've seen, like, all we've seen is an accelerationism of everything, and it's just sped things up. So this idea that like I don't think that the like things would be good and we wouldn't have anything to worry about if Kamala won. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that that's the conclusion people reach just because of the information I'm giving. None of it being that. I've never said that before once in my life. I've never even said anything close to it. What I'm saying is, before, it was a slow burn. It was, we had fascism pretty much already. It was coming, just slower, just a little bit slower. That's all. Now it's just being sped up. That's it. That's the only difference to me. And arguably, the slow burn can be worse because people don't wake up. It's the frog in the boiling water. So that timeline very much so could have went worse. So yeah, quit putting words in my mouth, people. I never said that the other timeline would be better. Never said that. All I'm saying is, if we don't respond to this shit, and I'm not blackpilled, I'm saying we have to hold Netrodyne accountable before they, Netrodyne and Palantir and Neuralink, all these companies, which, by the way, Neuralink was being investigated, and probably these other companies too. Don't quote me on that, but I could imagine they might be being looked into too. But I know for a fact Neuralink was being looked into by the government, by all these agencies, and then they come in, oh Doge, we gotta take them all apart. We gotta get rid of them. They're corrupt. And it's like these are the very people that were holding these guys accountable. They got rid of them and got them out of the way under the guise of we're clearing out the house. And they're not. They're just making all their rich buddies more powerful. It's a complete show that they're putting on. I'm sorry. That's just the facts. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of help people see the parallels between like capitalism is bad. Like I don't know how else to tell you that. Like uber centralized independent individualism is not independence. So you're not independent. And like people like talk about freedom all the time, like freedom, like you should be free to do anything. What about community? Like isn't like having a community that you feel safe in, maybe knowing your neighbors, maybe not having to look at the chemicals in your food when you're buying food, stuff like this, simple things. Like, oh, you have the freedom to not buy the poison food, but most of it's poison though. But you got freedom because you have the choice to not buy it. Is that really freedom? If we don't have our individual needs being met, I'm talking housing, shelter, you know what I mean, food, water, clean food and water that is healthy for us. Is having the freedom to be able to buy a mansion and you know you throw your money around to impose your will on others and stuff like that, is that more important than community? Like these guys, that's what libertarianism, I'm sorry, leads down. This path of libertarianism leads down is, oh, well, I have more power than you do due to the resources and capital that I acquired. Therefore, it is my right under my freedom to impose my will under you because that's freedom. That's not freedom. That's bullshit. You've been brainwashed into thinking that hyper centralized individualism is freedom. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps was originally intended to be a joke. You can't literally pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's impossible. But people now use this as a real life euphemism for how people should conduct themselves and live. It's ridiculous. Anybody who's bragging about how they work more than 40 hours a week and other people should be like them is a fucking cuck. Period. Stop being a bootlicker and start looking out for your neighbors and looking out for each other. Stop making excuses for these fascist dictators and their tech oligarch bros that are trying to make an authoritarian technocratic dictatorship where your brain is hooked up to a computer. Stop worshiping these people and start worshiping humanity, each other, the arts, love, having dinner with your family. I don't mean to sound like a Hallmark card or like super generic or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm sure you've heard this a million times. But no, empathy is not the enemy, the downfall to Western civilization. The downfall to Western civilization is the lack of empathy, is the lack of looking out for each other, is the fact that we're willing to have a system that purposely throws away roughly 45% of all of the food and hoards the housing in order to have a fear to hold over everybody's heads, so they're afraid of standing up and fighting back against the system because they could end up on the streets literally if they try to do it. How can you fight back against the system when you're working so much and you can barely afford to put food on the table? That's where they want us. That's what they're trying to create. Don't give them that. Socialism is not a bad word. Look, I'm not trying to make you a communist. I'm not trying to make you a socialist. I'm not trying to make you anything. I'm just saying you live on a planet where we all share the same soil, the same water, we breathe the same air. So how the fuck are we supposed to live under a system that focuses on the individual rather than the whole? It doesn't make any sense, and believing otherwise is the result of brainwashing. Why do you think the CIA literally topples every single socialist, democratic, or communist government that ever comes into existence ever? Why do you think that they've spent billions and billions of dollars against this ideology and making sure that people are afraid of it? Why? Why do you think that is? If we're talking about the CIA, which we have all if you watch this channel, you know we've verified, people have verified that they literally are running child abuse trafficking. I'm trying to say it the best way I can without getting algorithm tripped by YouTube. You know what we're talking about. SRA, satanic ritual abuse. These things are all connected to the CIA, okay? And the CIA, this is the same organization that is overthrowing people like what's the guy's name? Gaddafi. Gaddafi was just trying to build a better government for his people and nationalized oil and did all these wonderful things for his people, and the CIA and then our government and capitalism was threatened by that, so they overthrew him. These are the facts, people. Look, I'm not saying I'm Che Guevara and I know the political ideology that can fix all this, and hey, now go put on get your hammer and sickle and become a communist. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you think that like hyper centralized individualism and the American way that we've created, the American dream, which you have to be asleep to believe, if you believe in that, you believe in that because you've been fucking brainwashed. Point blank, period. I don't believe that's like an opinion. I believe that is subjective fact, subjective reality. And I'm sorry, if you look into these like what is the CIA who has to control the music, who has to control the information, who has to control everything? Why do you think that it's because they're trying to help you? Do you think it's because they got your back and because they're trying to look out for you? You either believe that or you don't. Do you trust these people or do you not? It's very simple. Very simple. Do you trust these people or do you not? So that being said, this technology already exists. Palantir is already, or whatever it's called, is already monitoring people. They've brought it here to the United States to monitor immigrants. They're monitoring everybody to find immigrants. That means you're now caught in the crossfire of their illegal technology, no matter what you do. Just like how one of my former comrades who came on my show said it's going to be okay for them to target brown people when the time comes when Trump gets elected because that's the only way they can find him. Well, guess what? You're going to get targeted too with your white skin because it doesn't matter when you're looking at things on a computer level what color skin you have. You can get targeted too, and that's how this all works. It's a slippery slope. You other one group of people, oh, legal immigrants, we can do it. We can due process. They're legal immigrants. They don't need due process. Well, you're fucking next. Don't say I didn't warn you. Like, I'm literally watching this all play out. I'm able to explain it very logically. Yes, I get a little worked up to it. You would too. Worked up about it. You would too. But I'm able to explain the timeline of how this all works. Like, we got Netradine over here who has basically they have the cameras in the Amazon vans. They're making sure that they're scoring the drivers and making sure that they drive and be correctly on the job. It's looking at the road. It's judging how far things away and stuff like that. That company, Netradine, works with Palantir to create this technology. They're able to put it in the human brain. They're already working with Israel, as you saw in my last video. And I said before I even found that out and knew that my memories were of Netanyahu being there and Netanyahu being part of creating me, turning me into a cyborg. Like, these are memories of the future. I'm trying to warn you where this all goes. This hyper individualism, this being afraid of empathy, like the people in the future that I met that don't even talk to each other, that sound like they're deaf when they do try to use their mouth because they've never used it before. Like, these people believe that like they don't have crime, they don't have violence, they don't have war. So we're the crazy ones. And once we get to that point, there's really no going back because their argument is, look, there hasn't been a murder for 800 years. You're the crazy ones. Oh, we don't make poetry or write, or we don't feel the need to leave the mile radius we live in other than to go to work. Oh, we like none of those things matter because they're safe. Is that what you want your future to be? Like, really safe, but no freedom? And it's the contradiction because I'm talking about how we all have to live together. And so there is this idea of our cohesive safety, and we're a social organism. So it's kind of like the double speak coming through, where these people want you to be afraid of community so that they can sell you a fascist, autocratic, technocratic version of it where your brain's hooked up to a computer because you need that. You need to be controlled. You need that to keep you safe and make sure you behave. We need this technology to be imposed upon the people in order to end war and create world peace. That's the price of utopia, your humanity. That's what it is. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what these people are trying to do. I've already seen it. The Vasiharo family lineage, as far as I can tell, is gone, and I remember killing them. So technically, like, some of this stuff has already happened temporally because time isn't real in the way we perceive time is a misnomer and we don't really understand how it works. It's like a circle, like, or a spiral. I don't even know how to explain it, but like I know that I have to talk about this and I know it can be prevented. There are manted beings who told me that I have to talk about this stuff. I have to talk about the future that I want to prevent as much as possible and let people know about it because the education of the people on these subjects could potentially swing the pendulum the other way. They told me that. So I hope they're right. I hope they're right in this instance. And I have a feeling that even a lot of the people who are going down the path who think that everything Trump and Elon is doing is good are going to see once we're far enough long down that path. Once we've gone down that path enough, they're going to see what I see a little bit more clearly, a little bit better. Now, my hope is that we aren't so far down the path that we can't turn back once we get to that point, and that's what I'm trying to prevent. But I really need people to listen to me in order to get there, and to get their bias, their Trump derangement syndrome out of the way so they can see the truth. Well, they tell me I have it. It's hard. So I don't know. And the thing that gives me hope is like millions, billions of people all across the world are standing up against this. Average people that have average jobs, like working in coffee shops and factories and things like that, whatever. The average people are standing up to this stuff and realize it's fucked up. The truther community isn't the metric of humanity, is what I'm realizing. And in this instance, that gives me hope. Thank God, because the truther community is drinking the Kool-Aid at this point, and I'm not. And I don't know what to tell you. I just want to rant about cars, fascism, where this all leads. Like, yeah, there's a reason Trump is cozying up to Elon and he's got military contracts and all this AI stuff starts getting used by the military. This is the path we're going down. I'm trying to tell you, all right? I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm saying you got the power. I've seen this in Hillary Clinton, Democratic president timelines where it goes down this path and we have this kind of future. And I've seen it in the Trump timeline, the Trump kind of timelines or the right winger timelines where this can happen. And I've also seen left timeline or Democratic timelines where it doesn't happen and right wing timelines where it doesn't happen too. So it's like this whole idea that one or the other is evil. It's silly. It's binary programming. It's coding. It's mind control programming. Red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, emergency, 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 respond to the emergency. They create chaos so they can invite solutions and be the solution. Like you all know this, but yet when you see it playing out in front of your eyes and you have a time traveler telling you, you don't listen. I'm not saying you specifically, but a great deal of people. They're like, oh, you know, I like to, I manifest my own reality. And since I don't like that, since I'm a big time manifester, God, manifest harder and just make that not real. Sorry, Arkeem. Can't listen to your channel anymore. I'm too busy manifesting. Right? Like that's seriously what's going on. Like, your testimony makes me uncomfortable. Therefore, it's not real. I get to decide what reality I'm in. It's like a choose your own adventure novel at the fucking library. My life, isn't that fun? I wish my life was like that. Believe me, I see the power of manifestation, and I make crazy shit happen for myself. I understand it, but I'm not so ridiculous that I think that it works on that level and impose that on other people to the point where it might destroy humanity. Like, I don't do that. But it's not going to destroy humanity. I'm not going to let it. Like I said, I mean, you got the mainstream talking about how dangerous this is, and then you got the people who think they're anti-establishment because they're going against the grain because they're in the truther community. Now they think they're the ones that are anti-establishment, even though they're the ones who are licking the boot of a dictator, and they're the ones who are pro-establishment more than anybody. They all think that every single person who ever voted Democrat. It just has this like lifelong allegiance to their party, and that just it's like a religion they follow or something, like Trumperism, like right wingism is, and it's not. My allegiance is to humanity and the future of mankind. My allegiance of humanity isn't to any political party. My allegiance is to the truth, is to providing you with the truth and creating a world that we can all live in peacefully with true liberty, with one another, where we do not have other people's beliefs imposed upon us, where we do not have technologies forcibly implanted into our bodies, where we do not have drugs forcibly implanted into our bodies, where we do not have our food or our air or our soil damaged by corporations because they hold all the power, because they hold all the money and we hold none. This must change. And anybody who sees this and believes drill baby drill, all right, that's the way we need to go, has things all fucked up, and you need to get your heads out of your asses before it's too late. Get on the train, get on the future, get on with the people who are actually fighting back. They're your neighbors. There are a lot of the people that you're condemning and saying are brainwashed morons, psychopaths that maybe even took the jab or whatever. Some of these people are seeing things that you refuse to see and are less brainwashed than you in different ways. But the problem is that everybody thinks that everything is just unequivocally across the board one way, and that there's no such thing as nuance. There's no such thing as two things sort of simultaneously being true or whatever, any of these things. Anyway, this is my rant. I don't really have much more to say, but that's the rant. And I'm going to try to make like a more, I think I'm going to try to make another video on the subject, on cars and the rise of fascist dictatorships and stuff and how it plays into it. That's a little more well put together and a little less of a rant, showing some images and some facts and statistics. I think that's something that I'm going to work on for like the next week or two. And yeah, because it's just such a crazy thing when you think about it. Like Henry Ford, Volkswagen, Elon Musk, like it's all like the military, cars, industrialization, and manufacturing. It's all connected to the rise of these authoritarian dictatorships because it's required. They need to have brute force, and in order to do that, they need to take over factories. And in the United States, that was done pretty easy. That was done pretty fast. Elon Musk and Trump are just working together now. It was instant before he even became president. It was already cemented in. So I'm saying that's dangerous. That's dangerous. It's part of the recipe for disaster. All right. We've seen it other times. Learn from your history. Cars have been around for over 100 years. So this isn't the first time we've seen this. It's just happening again in a different way. History rhymes. All right. It's rhyming. It's not repeating exactly, but it's rhyming. So please heed my warnings. I'm literally a time traveler. I've literally seen the future. This isn't from a CNN or Breitbart article. This is my memories of having my skeleton ripped out of my body and replaced with a titanium and being given bionic eyes and forced to kill people. That's the price that this knowledge comes at, all right? I'm a canary in the coal mine trying to warn you we can't go down this fucking path. Please, for the love of God, listen to me. I beg you. Thank you.